And it's a song that everybody has. Mohawks, Onayas, Nayukas, Senecas, Onondagas, and all have a feather dance. And some people says, and the elder people when they talk, some of them will say that that feather dance really came from the other world in the solar system, where our creation of Iroquois tell us where we came from. Now you might be thinking, because you talk about science fiction and about those TV shows, well, some of that isn't so far-fetched, because a lot of that is became like, what's the name of that one where it's got sharp ears? Yeah, Star Trek. Some of that is not so far-fetched, because it's within some of it's within our tradition. So I'm wondering where they got that from. Maybe that, what's this guy that sharp ears? He might be a Mohawk. Hard drive. Later when more important stuff. Now back to the vibration. Well, they didn't actually call it vibration, I guess, but it's the same thing. They should have called it that. And here's what. And so they say that when that woman came here from the sky world, that we call her, that woman, a Chichagayo. That was what we call her. And that's a kind of a strange name, because it means a matured flower. Or you can say an old lady. It depends how you use it. It means the same thing, though. You know. But it's better to hear matured flower. Much better, right? Yes. Well, they say when she came here from that other planet or that other Earth, she's the one that brought life here. And I guess that's why Iroquois people, we are a matrilineal because of her. Everything has called matrilineal because of her. Oh, she's the region of everything, I guess. And they say that when she came here, they took the dirt from the bottom of the water, because the earth at that time, when she got here, there was no earth. There was no North America. There was no South America. There was no Africa. There was no land anywhere. The world was completely surrounded by water. There was no land. That's when she came here. And the big turtle came out of the big water. And the animals of the water, like muskrats and beavers and otters and all that, joined together, attempted to get dirt from the bottom of the big water, so she could plant the things she brought from the other world, which is strawberries and raspberries. And when the muskrat brought the dirt from the bottom of the water, they put it right in the middle of the turtle's back. And that woman began to go counterclockwise around those particles of dirt. And some people says that that's the origin of the Great Feather Dance. And so they call that Great Feather Dance the Creator's Song, the Creator's Dance. So she went counterclockwise and she began to chant the language from that other world. And that language that comes from that other world is still be heard today when you hear Senecas or Mohawk or Cayuga talking, that's part of that original language from the other word. It never stopped all the way to now. So that's why us younger people are put in charge of not letting the ball drop, of carrying that football to a touchdown, which means we won't lose our language. It's up to us younger ones. And it's up to the older ones to make sure that they throw that ball correctly so we can grab it. It takes two to tangle, you know. Birds of the beast. Well, I was going to tell you a story. I told him earlier, but that video is going. I don't think it's appropriate for it. You got to be over 21, and nobody's 21 here. They're older. Just kidding again. But back to this. Now, so that's what some people says. But then it was also lost. And so it was brought back again later on when the four sacred rituals was reintroduced. And that's where it was reintroduced again. And my uncle, the one I told you earlier, my uncle, he was the one who taught me lots of things. He's got quite a story about it another time. My uncle said to me, when you're going to dance, the great feather dance, they will use a turtle's rattle. I don't know anybody ever seen that kind of rattle they use. It's got a long neck, because they stretch that. When they made a rattle, you have to stretch it. And so that turtle's rattle is like the symbol of the Mother Earth. It's the symbol of the Mother Earth. And on that turtle's back are 13 sections on the turtle's back. And so for 1 year, there's 13 moons. See what I mean? How it all comes together? As a matter of fact, scientifically, documented. Even though we don't write it down, it's documented in the turtle's back. I mean, you can't get more documentation. Okay? Now, so my grandmother and my uncle said, when the singers are ready to sing for that Doa great feather dance, and when you and I, the people, are going to be ready to dance, anybody who is older, real old, and maybe in a wheelchair or are old and they can't, like they're 110 years old and they can't hardly walk because they're old, but they're at the longhouse. So those people, you will wheel their wheelchair in the middle of the longhouse where the singer's going to sit. Or the people who are crippled and can't walk, you put them there on a chair. So they're sitting right in the middle. And they be part of it, even though they can't walk, because they're old or they're sick. But they're going to be part of it. That's medicine too, just that. And then, before they start to sing and the people start to dance, this is what Grandma said and Uncle said. Fix yourself first before you dance, before you sing. Clean yourself first. Make yourself clean and pure in a spiritual way before you dance. Become part of it. Because you don't want to blemish it, that power. And what do they mean when they say that? Well, here's what Uncle told me you say. I only talk Mohawk for you, then I'll translate what it says. Nene no Venezuelati the Gadiso. Nesa Puyatat ne Wate. Tuga na hoto wa kuli boksa se. Chigon wa karon chikunchate. Chocolate ne wat. Ona ausko ka ni mo rio ko stoha. Ona ka ya stoha ko shalona. Anybody can translate it? International people? Well, let me translate for you then. What I said in English, today, my Creator, my Maker, I ask for forgiveness if there's anything I did to hurt your feelings or to blemish you or to hurt you, Creator, or anybody. If I hurt them, I ask you to forgive me. And I'm sorry. Because when I join the feather dance, I want purity. I want it clean, my life. So it will be strong, the dance. Then you can get up and give the dance. Every guy, woman, and kid is supposed to do that. You can't just get up and join the circle. You've got to fix it first. And the singers especially. That's why you'll notice, if you go to a longhouse, you'll see them singers. They don't just go sit there. They'll stand there and you'll see their mouth moving. That's what they're doing. So that their song will be pure and strong and correct. That's called vibration. But they don't say vibration. That's what it means, pure and clean. If you do this, that's why we hear it when elders talk. If you do all of that right, they say when you dance, and that kind of dance is a strenuous dance. I mean, Michael Jackson can't even do it. He was pretty good. Wait till the senators on dollars, you see them. Well, just add a little bit. Listen. But so they don't keep going. I almost forgot what I'm talking about, but Michael Jackson. So when you do that, those old people used to say it's when you do everything right, you bring feather dance. All the dancers, even though it's strenuous. It looks like they're feathers from an eagle, fluffy feather. And you know eagle's fluffy feather? If you drop it, they don't go down. It goes like this. And then after a while, then it touches the ground. It takes quite a while. Don't go down straight. And that's how you become as a feather dancer. And when you're dancing, your feet, it appears, doesn't touch the ground, doesn't touch the floor. If you go about everything right. And you don't even get tired because your feet's not touching the ground. If you do everything right. If everybody cleans the way I just told you, it'll be very powerful. And then my uncle says this. As you are dancing in a counterclockwise way, he said, and where the longhouse is, there's windows all along the long part. And on the other side, there's windows all along that part. So as you're dancing, that feather dance. And number 3 is really important in everything. Because in the creation, it says in there, when humans were made from that woman and her sons, her grandsons, they made the human us out of the water and the earth, and they made us. And when they finished, they put us in a fire to make us have a warmth and a heartbeat. And then they opened the mouth of those dolls that's made out of the earth and the water and with fire. And they blew in there 3 times. through the mouth. Almost reminds me of the paramedics when somebody drowns and we give them that off the mouth. And they let it say what they did, the creation. So all this scientific stuff is nothing to us, if you're traditional. It's all within those stories. And then after they blew in there 3 times, the eyes began to blink of those dolls. And they began to have a mobility, and their arms start to move. Pretty soon they're dancing and moving around. And that's how our great-grandmothers began their life this planet. And you know that Thanksgiving that we did a while ago? That's the Reader's Digest one. That one I did for you is the short one. When our ancestor first was given permission to live here on this planet, because he came from the other Earth in the solar system, that Thanksgiving was the instruction of how we are to behave, our parameters of our relationship in this planet is contained therein. So it's not just, it's the whole essence of humanity. It's called the original truth. And I'm going to tell you something else that Uncle told me and Grandpa told me. That all the black people of Africa were told and given the same thing. That all the non-native or Caucasian people of Europe were originally given the same thing. The exact same knowledge, the same original truth. That all the Asian people were given the same thing. And all the natives were given the same thing. But because people changed things, because evolution of man changed things, and they made man-made things, it got us away from original truth. So now the world is run by the man-made. And now we're confused. And now we're ready to make war. Now I'm hearing the extremists, some people, and everybody's extremist, including Jimmy Swaggart on the TV. You know what he says? That all the Muslims are wrong, they're all going to hell. And you know what he says too? All the Catholics are wrong too, they're going to hell too. And all the Indians, they're all going to hell too. Gee, heaven must be a lonesome place. And one of my elders said, when I die, I hope I don't go there. I'm telling you the truth and not the truth. You know what I mean? I'm just making a little bit light up the situation. But it's rough. So you got to laugh sometimes. But anyway, I have to remember why I told you this. There was a reason. Like I'm over 30 now, that happens to me more and more. So anyway, original truth belongs to every race. And the original truth was erased away from us, so that the interests of greed, kings and queens, can have the resources of the whole world. And did you know last week on the news, American stations and Canadian stations, you know what it said on there? That less than 1% of the people own more of the world's wealth than all of the other races of people combined. 1% owns more than half. You see now what I'm talking about? It's not a pipe dream I'm talking about. It's the real truth. And people start waking up. So, back to this now. I'm interjecting all these things, which I don't know if I'm confusing you, but I'm getting confused. But it's fun. Now, what my uncle said, as you're dancing, now I gave you reasons. When I said number 3, right? 3 comes when they make people live. Remember the blue and the eyes green? And then in the break of the dance, every time they finish a song, here's what they do. They'll go, yo, 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 like that, every time. How many is that? 3. See what I mean? We're very consistent. In our story of cosmology, to our yesterday, to our present, and to our future. All the same. Yeah. So as you're doing that, yo, 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 everybody do it. Yo, yo, yo. Is that a vibration? Yes. Now, Uncle and Grandma told me, as I am going around to look out the window, when it comes to that part where you holler, find a tree in that window. Toya Zuya. What does that mean? That means throw your voice at the base of the tree that you see in the window of the longhouse. And throw your voice, yo, right there at the base of the tree. And so it hits that tree at the base, and then it goes up the tree, and every branches has got another branches, and they go here, they go there, they go there, they point everywhere. And so that tree amplifies that you threw at its base. And then what Norma was talking about, on the bottom, under the ground, there's another branches of the roots. And it goes every which way, the ends of each branch and root. So the whole universe is being vibrated by your yo, 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 which brought life to the human, and to the world we live in. Very powerful. So that's why when you get in that dance, make sure you are clean, so that your vibration and your thankfulness will be felt the whole universe. That's what she was talking about. And so that's why every ceremony in the longhouse, whether it's Madawan, whether it's the Iroquois longhouse, is vitally important. Those old pagan heathens have kept our world going when everybody else stopped and failed. The old pagan heathens kept it going. That's why the sun is still shining. That's why the moon still gives us kids. That's why the water still quenches our thirst. Because IGA, that's a day when he isn't going to give it to us. Except it's not young. So I mean, that's the old time. So what is sort of our job to do is this, is that today the Indian people have gone through a machine, no, that's too harsh, but maybe not, called colonization machine, where it grinds up a deer or a moose or a cow into this grinder and makes hamburger out of something that was beautiful. And so us people, especially Crees, Mohawks, etc., Lakota, we will all send Grandma and Grandpa and them to residential schools, where everything was taken away from them. Feather dance, midwinter, thunder dance, sun dance, and proclaim their season faith. What we need to make the world keep moving was eradicated. Even how do you become a good mother and a good father was eradicated. And then sent back home. And then they had 10, 12 kids, and they didn't know how to be a mother, and they didn't know how to be a father, because the school brought them on that. So then we breed dysfunction. And then those dysfunctions breed another dysfunction. So now our people are broke. Their heart is broke. You see that in Winnipeg streets. In fact, we're just talking about that on the news. Helpless. Drinking. And that's not what the Creator did. But that's what ended up because of the destituteness of us people. No doing of our own. We got a lot of fixing to do. But, so our heart is broke. And so now the scientists and the thinkers and philosophers that are few in the world are now saying that the way the Indians do things before is very essential. Yet they try to eradicate it from the face of the earth. And now there's only one here, and another 1,000 you might find another real tradition. Another 1,000 that you might find another tradition. And now you've got tens of millions of people that need spiritual help from only that few left. But yet, they want us now to teach it. But they kill us. They stabbed our heart. So now our heart too is filled with distrust. And now they're asking us to teach them. So a lot of my people says, I don't want to teach the white people. Because they kill us. They stole our kids. They ruined all our food system. And now they want us to teach them from a little bit up. It's all we got left, and they want that too. And that's the opinion of lots of them older people. But that's not the right opinion to have. So us, we're now in charge of healing our elders and ourselves, because I still have some of that too. Because don't forget, when I was young, it was bad. I hated it too, just like they do. But like normal, I listened to the ceremony, what it's talking about. Not just by my ear. I let it go in my ear and into my heart. So it goes through my whole being. And so now I found that I am responsible for this Mother Earth. And responsible for the sun. Responsible for everything that lives. To harmonize, to respect it. So that our kids and the next kids from 7 generations ahead will have a world. So now I have to find out, how can I help my elders to get rid of the hate and the mistrust? Then I got to try to help the white people who did this to us. How do they get rid of their hate and their distrust and their greed? Because that's what God has helped. And then how do I share Sundance and Mother Earth and Thunder Dance with them too, so they can be grateful for the real essence of life too. And then we all return. And that's not to say everybody's going to start doing longhouse like the Seneca or the Mohawks, but to recapture the Irish, the Italians, original. How do you say thank you to the sun? You don't have to do it the way Mohawks do it or Lakotas do it. You have to now have a vision and reconnect to the sun for your people. But we still do it so we can give you a guiding hand towards that end. And that's what would be useful. When we heal from our hate, so it's a big job, a monumental job. And it's going to take cooperation. Yeah. But I want to share with you, I'd like to share with you, because I might forget. I don't want to forget this part. I think Norma heard it before, because I told her at the great law reading there. Last spring, early spring, the snow is still on the ground. And I sometimes have these dreams. They're not dreams, they're very real. I mean, like we're right here together. Like I could touch the people. Well, me and my wife was laying in bed at night time. That's all we were doing, just laying there. It's making me laugh. You probably wish. No, but. And all of a sudden, I had this dream. It was so real. And so I go like this. And my wife just, can you wake up? I says, I gotta tell you this dream. Because a lot of times you forget what you dream of. And I don't want to forget this one. Because it was so fresh. And I woke her up. And so she woke up. She always does when I even if I don't breathe right, she wakes up and tells me. I like breathing. Yeah. And well, she gave me 6 kids too, you know. It was a good one. But I told her the dream, and I want to share this dream with you. This voice came to me. It wasn't a person's voice. It was a man's voice. And that voice talks Mohawk. And it says to me, they're going to have a big meeting down that way over there. Although I didn't see him because it's just a voice, I could visualize the image in my head. It's like I see him, but he's not there, just a voice. But his voice was so short that it made images that I could see action, but it's not there. I could see him going over there. He says, they want you to go to the meeting. They will be coming from different places and different nations over there. And I was tired because I was sleeping, when he woke me up, just whatever it was. So, and I was taught by my grandma and uncle and all them leaders never to say no when somebody asks you something. That if you have it within your health and power to try to do it, even if you're sick, try to do the best you can. But don't say no. Because to say no to somebody is the most disrespectful thing that you can do. And so, I don't want to say no. I want to say no, but I was told not to say no by the elders. So, it's in here. So I'm trying to think of how can I say no in the most diplomatic way? Because I don't really want to go. And so I was thinking, over the years, I went to lots of meetings, and over the years, and I'm kind of tired of the meetings. I think I'm old enough to stay home now. And I was trying to be diplomatic here. How can I present it to this voice? By the time I figured out what to say to him, we were almost at the meeting. Yeah. And you know what? We didn't go by car, and we didn't go by plane. We walked there, but we didn't walk. We were both floating, standing upright, moving like this, going to the meeting. And by the time I'm ready to tell him I'm not going, we were there. And up this high above the ground, our feet wasn't touching the ground. And as we stood up there, this was at the dawn or the dusk I don't know if it was dark or daytime or nighttime, giving night or giving day. It was dusk or dawn. I can't tell the difference in that green. And he says to me, and there was more than just people who were sitting here. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with Onondagas in Syracuse, their land over there. But where their longhouse is, to the, I forgot which way it is. But right next to their longhouse, there's a big field where they usually play what they call long ball. It's a traditional game. It's a lawn, like big lawn. And we were standing in air up here. He's right here, but I can't see him, but I know he's there. I can feel it. He was like black. Everything was like black, like oil. His presence. I feel him. And he's talking. He says, that means, can you see those? They're sitting on the ground. And when I looked, because it was dawn and dusk, it wasn't daylight, so I couldn't really see good. So he said, "Oh, you." He said, "Look at him." But so I looked, straightened himself, looked, and they were sitting in a big circle. And there's about 20 times the size of this people here. He did more than that. They were sitting in that big circle on the ground. And that big circle, and we're watching, huh? The men had blankets on across here and tied here. That was like their jacket, I guess, in old days. They're sitting around. And women, they had blankets or shawl on. Some of them had it right here, just face sticking up. Some of them had it just on their shoulders. And they're sitting on the ground too. And he asked me to look at them real good. I looked. I straightened. He says, "What did you notice about it?" I said, "I noticed that in that circle, they're all sitting there with blankets, except in that one space, there's a blanket on the ground, but nobody's got it on. Just the blanket is there. And as I looked at the big circle, I noticed another stem spot. There's a blanket on the ground. And I see that they're facing the circle. And you know what he said to that? He said, that one is old Josie Logan. That's his blanket. Just left only the blanket. That one over there is Jake Thomas. That one over there is Robert Sundown. That one blanket that's on the ground is called Jake Swamp. That one on the ground is your dad's. That one over there is your grandpa. And he went on. Then I asked him, what about them shawls? He said, that shawl that's on the ground, nobody wearing it. That's old Alice Papino on the dog of Glenmore. The other one over there is your great grandma. That's her shawl. And that one over there is Albert Shenandoah. And he went on. And then he asked me, oh, Ron LaFrance, you see there too. He's played. Then he asked me, did you see all those people, the one that's got the blanket on, saying, ladies, come back? He asked me, do you know those? And I looked real good. And I seen a lot of you guys there. I seen Jack Hill. I see the Kakapuna, it's a Kakapuna. I see lots of our young people in there. And it's everybody that I ever knew, all my life that I ever got to know, in all the longhouses, in all my travels, since I was born, were sitting in that circle. And then he says to me, "Who's that guy sitting over there?" Now, I look real good. And I kind of laugh at him a little bit. I think that's Tom Porter. I was looking at myself, sitting there, which was funny. I thought, he says, "No, you're right. That's you." He says, "And I'm going to tell you something, grandson. Not too long in the future, your blanket will be on the ground too, just like the others. And then pretty soon, all the blankets will be in that circle with nobody in them, just the blanket on the ground in the big circle." That's what he told me. And then he says to me, but he's talking all along. He says, in the last 60 years, beginning around 60, 65, 70 years ago, all the longhouses in the airport, in Paluchini, almost became extinct. Old people were last ones to believe that and to do that. And a lot of the younger ones were going to cities, going to the schools, trying to become doctor, lawyer, or whatever. Nobody interested to do that. Around 60 years ago, he said, "What you don't know, I'm telling you now." He said, "I'm the one," he said to himself, to me, he said, "I'm the one." He's referred to himself, his voice. You don't know that. You still don't know that. But when it was going to become extinct, and there will be no more longhouse, once they die, nobody can take over. It's gone forever. "I'm the one," he said, and I went over there, and I put it in her neck. And I went into him, and I put it in his head. And I went over and put it in her head, those people. And you still know it. And you began to do things. Even you didn't have meetings to plan it. You didn't strategize, nothing. You did it independently, but all on the same page. Because I'm the one who put it in your heads. Because we're going to extinction. And I don't want that to happen. And then he just began to work. Hey, Coach, I like it. He says, "You're right in it. You were one of them." He says, "And I want you guys not to take lightly this fact, that our extinction was coming. But you guys in this circle started to move at my inspiration. And you were able to turn this big ship that was headed to your demise around and make the fires of the nations burn again. Yours are the ones that began to teach the kids. Somehow you did. And the kids start to come back. Everywhere. The whole country, too, listened to these guys. And it became the big thing again. He says, "I was the one putting in this thing." But what you were able to do in the last 60 years is awesome. blanket. There I thank you too. He says, but all the blanket will be left shortly. But he says, just like this, don't worry about it. Because the next kids that's going to be born under every blanket that's gone empty and just on the ground, the new kids is going to come under the blanket and wear those blankets. And the power that I gave you guys to turn things around, I'm giving those kids that's going to wear the blanket tomorrow 7 times the power that I gave you. And you'll see, if you want to see something awesome, you wait till it's their turn. And then I came to my senses, and it was just a dream, but a very powerful, beautiful dream that I share with my people in my youth, wherever I can. And so what I'm telling you is to love our kids, is to water them and to encourage them to love their tradition. And they will take our nation back to the great days of honesty, of hard work, and of a fire that will never go out. Is your days. So praise the young. If they're lost doing drugs, don't throw them away. Go to them, because they're your sons, and they're your nephews, and they're your grandchildren. No matter how wrong they are, how lost they are, go to them. And if you don't know what to say, just love them, and the words will come. And inspiration will come. And that was the dream I was having to share with you and our kids. And I was asking reservation where I come from. They're about ready to do their midwinter. And I shared with you a couple of years ago, there was a little boy, and his parents made moccasins for him, beat it, and put leggings on him, beat it, nice apron, and go it back and front. Nice ribbon shirt. Just so he really took letters on it. Oh, he looked like a doll. I like a little doll. But there's a human. He's 5 years old. 5 years old. Okay. And anyway, there's a little boy. You see, in the longhouses, there's a day where all the men have to sing, just the men, not women, just men. And the reason the women don't sing the song of spirit song or Aduma, their fire song, is because the Creator gave the men that song because women, they already have power. Because women can give birth to a new human being, men can't. So the woman has more power than a man. So the Creator gives the men that song called Aduma song, Thanksgiving song, so they'll be at par with the woman. That's why women don't have to do it, because they're already full of power. And this little boy, and so all the real longhouse people, traditional people, when their little son and nephews are 5 or 6 years old or 4 years old, they will burn tobacco, and they will ask the Creator to send a song to their son, or their nephew, or their grandson, their own special song, to sing at the ceremonies, to be faithful. And it's each individual, it's like a handprint. It's only separate, different song. And there's a little boy, this is about 3-4 years ago now. He was only 5 years old, maybe 4, dressed up right to the hilt. Proud as can be, he was. And the longhouse will hold 700 people, and it's full. Half are men, half are women. And when they start this song, this little boy, by himself, with nobody, he says, "Hey, and everybody says, the whole house, whoa, 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 all do that. Then he stands up and he goes, he starts to sing the song. All the men go like this on the floor, and he like that, help him. All women, 300 women, help him, that little boy. He's singing loud, like this, watching. Right to the middle of the long house. 700 people. He's only 5. Not in the middle of the long house. Hey, wait! Everybody, whoa, whoa, hi! Everybody, stop not people. Wait a little boy. And the little boy stood there, and he said, my Creator, I sing for you today. He says, I sing to say thank you, Creator. And then he goes like this with his little fingers. You see that woman sitting over there? That's my mother. Thank you, you said to me, the best mother in the whole world. That's why I sing for my mother. And his little finger, you see on the other side, that's my father. Creator, thank you. You sent me, I got the best father in the whole world. Thank you, that father. I sing for him. Then he goes like this, he says, they told us this could be Istanbul, to the Anistan. Right, he said over there sitting is our chiefs and our men and women, faith keepers. And Creator, those are the best leaders in all the world. And they're my leaders. Thank you, Creator. And the Imam and all the people. Wow. He starts singing again. He go back to his chair. And he got back and he said, Creator, that was my son. Thank you, everything. And he sat down. And the whole house cried. Every woman cried. Every man cried. You know why? Because one cried. And he did something that a real strong man is doing. And now that means he's 5 for at least another 70 years. How comes they don't stop? Going to go for another 70 years. He there, please. How powerful it is. But I think that maybe, what time is it? We don't want to run over the time. Is somebody supposed to give me a little bit of hint when it's coming close? 10 minutes?
And
No.
Sharon Longboat. Is there any Sharon Longboat?
Jan Longboat?
Sharon.
Oh, Sharon. Okay. I think I talked something about I was supposed to talk about certain things, but some other things came. So that's the way Spirit's working, you know. They come and intervene and so on. So I'm thankful. But I was just going to tell you now a little bit about this. I'm going to try to Reader's Digest it. So, how come I'm going to see that? Don't fall out the wagon. I mean, when the Iroquois people, and I think this is true of the Ojibways, and Lakota too, I think it's true in the earliest, but the Iroquois still do it. When, first of all, I'm going to talk about this one, that if you're a Bear Clan, you're not supposed to marry another Bear Clan. If you're a Wolf Clan, you're not supposed to marry another Wolf Clan. Because if a bear and another bear, they're sisters and brothers. It's considered incest if you do that. But because of colonization and residential school era, they were told that those things are not true. Those are not to be really to be adhered to. And so for 2 or 3 generations, that got told to them. And so they became lax. And now amongst the Senecas, the Ottawas, and Mohawks, there's a lot of times where you'll find a bear marrying a bear, or a turtle marrying a turtle. Even though our tradition says no, but they were not privy to our tradition. So you can't really blame them, although it's not right. Irregardless if they knew or not, it's really not right. But how do we fix it? We fix it by first admitting that it's a mistake and it's not right, but that's our reality. But when I look for, so you tell your grandchild, if they're from that kind, when you're a teenager or a young man and you're ready to look for a woman, the first thing you don't look at her, don't kiss her, don't hold her hand until you find out what clan she's on. Don't even pursue unless you know. Because if you don't know, it can get lots of trouble for you. And once you kiss one of them, it's contagious. I don't know if I said that right. Anyways, it did get some reaction. So I must have pushed the button up through. But anyway, now, so you tell them, even though if we find that we're like that, you can fix it. When it's your turn, do it right. When your grandchildren, do it right. Let's get it back on. And we can get it back on. But it's got to be done with a good mind. It can't be done with malice. It can't be done with shame. It's got to be done with our plan. Yeah, we're going to get it back on the right road. Yeah. So, and there's nothing in the whole Indian world, no matter how dysfunctional, no matter how broke up, no matter how lost we are, everything is fixable. Everything is fixable. But you start one step at a time, and with love, and with compassion, and with plan. One step at a time. And no matter how wrong they are, that's why a lot of us have our time. Because it's so easy just to shun them. It's so easy just to throw them out. You don't have to worry about them. Then you cry. No, let's cry now rather than, and let's see what we can go. And then, anyway, so Iroquois. So first now, what I'm going to say now, first, marriage is the oldest law that is on this face of the earth. I don't care if you're black, white, or Indians. The law of marriage is the most ancient law of every race. That's the original law created in it. So a man and a woman is going to commit together. Got to be right clan. And if you get married, my uncle says and my grandma says, that's the highest form of respect that you can give to your mother and your father, and your grandma, and your grandpa. It's the highest form of respect. Because when you get married, the chiefs are involved, the clan mothers are involved, the faith keepers are involved, the whole nation is involved. You set the date and what you do. And when Iroquois gets married, there's no such thing as RSD, what do you call it, RSD, or what do you call it, they send out cards? If you're gonna, you gotta send it back to somebody you know you're coming. That's how it was for the Indians. We don't do that. When you get married, it's announced at the longhouse, the whole nation is invited. The whole nation. Nobody is excluded. Anything goes on longhouse, nobody is excluded. And so, when you get married, you sometimes feed 1,500, 2,000 people. Sometimes more than that. And it's nothing to it. Because all the aunts and cousins all help. That's really a solid. When you see traditional marriage, it is. And a lot of people wonder, how did you afford that? And nothing to it. Because we all use one money. Everybody's house. And so now at that big wedding, they're going to sit in the middle of the floor, and they're going to first bring the two mothers, the bride's mother and the groom's mother. And she sits by him, and mother sits by her. And the leaders, going to be one to talk for all the leaders. And he says, if you're the mother of him, I say to you, what clan do you and your son belong to? And you put a couch, everybody did. Then I say to you, that's your the other side. That's your daughter. What clan do you belong to? So that's established first. Because if it's the same, they will not marry you. And it's been known to happen that the Mohawk will run away from our land and they'll move to the Grand River because they were refused to get married because they were the same clan. But the love boat, that's why I said don't kiss them right away. Because you get trapped. Do your other business first. They run away and go to the Six Nations and live there for 6 months or a year. And those people in Six Nations don't know them. So while they're over there, one is a bear and the other one became a turtle. Now they ask the chiefs over there at longhouse, and there's 3 or 4 longhouses over there, maybe 5. Can we get married? Well, they got the right plan, but one lied. Get married. You know what my uncle said when people do that? They thought they're cheating our leaders by way over there. Here's what he says, my uncle. Nene, ona ahalinaka tuli saksuan. Nene rati mona kaleni. Umuchawe o ne, huli do perse. Ne ahatroli, ne chinaham. That means if they get married and they have children, the babies of them will talk loud, the whole world will hear their secret. Because that baby would be born with only 4 fingers and no thumb. Or one leg is shorter than the other leg. Or his mind is too fast than the other people. Or his mind is too slow than the other people. There will be an abnormality. And the people will see that. And that means you talk loud for the word, even though mother and father keep secrets created. You fix it that way. You understand what that means? Yeah. So, that you want to go there, it means that's a loud voice. Then, when that ceremony takes place, they can't get married until the two mothers agrees everything. And there's a whole bunch of questions they're going to ask. Yeah. And one of the questions is, they're going to say, your daughter, you gave her birth, and you feed her with your breast. And then you change her diapers when she was baby. And then you stay up all night when she was feeding because she had pain. And you rubbed her gums to soothe the pain. And then you watched her as a teenager when trouble came. All teenager, big trouble. That was the roughest time. But she went through it. And now she's growing up. She has grown up. Do you think that your daughter, with all your years of experience with her, raising her, is matured enough now that she can have and be with a man as a wife? Do you think she can handle that? You don't want to know. Just ask the mother to talk. And she agreed, and they say the same thing on the other side. You think your son is good enough or whatever. And so that marriage goes between the two mothers first until everything's okay. Then they go to them. And then one of the things they ask the mother, on this side and that side, if something should happen tomorrow, next month, after they're married, maybe a stroke of bad luck, when you never know, and they become destitute, will you open your door to your daughter and her husband and their kids if something happened, and they can take shelter in your house for as long as it takes until they can get back on their feet? And she has to say yes. Otherwise, if no, their marriage can't go through. Same thing on this side. And it takes about an hour and a half of talking like that, maybe more. And I mean, there's no leaf unturned when those old people talk to them. And then when they're finished, they have a wedding cake, but it's called a cornbread. And it's a wheel about that thick that is around. And this cornbread is made with strawberries and maple syrup. The bread. That's what we call wedding bread. If that isn't there, that marriage is not legal. And when this marriage is done, that woman and that man, their first duty as a man and a wife, and now there's 1,500, 2,000 people at the wedding, is they have to take that bread and cut it into small pieces and then go counterclockwise and feed all their guests. Because whenever somebody comes to your house, you're supposed to feed them or give them drink. And so now that they're married, this will be their first official duty, right after that ceremony. And so it's very beautiful. And then, but when you do that, your mother's there, your aunts are sitting next with you in the bed, all your immediate family, two groups are united. Really beautiful. And the way, because my wife is a Choctaw from Mississippi, so we have 6 kids, and so my kids are Choctaws, but they grew up in Mohawk country. But when my son got married to a Mohawk girl, all his kids are Mohawks because it's metroism. When my son got married, we mixed it with Choctaw because they're Choctaw. Except we did it Mohawk way, but with a little bit of mixture of Choctaw. And here's the mixture. My son, all dressed up, all everything, right to the hill. We dressed him at our house. And my father, my mother, my aunts, my uncles, all my son's relatives gathered at my house. And then his wife, to be, gathered at the longhouse. All their family, about 300 of them. About 300 of us over here. So when they're ready to go to longhouse, my son, all my family hides him. They surround him and hide him. And as we march to the longhouse, they sing Choctaw song. It goes like this. Hundreds of brother are assigned and sent to come to our group because it's a different family, and they're looking for him to marry their sister, you know. So they come and looking, and our people's hiding my son amongst them, see, so they have to search for him. So when they find him, they go in we try to hide him, but they come in to look for him. And when they find him, they grab each side, get him, take him to the longhouse where the wife is waiting. And the same as the other side. We also sent over there to find her, to put them together. It's like a hiding mouse game in a way, but very beautiful, very exciting, because it unites hundreds of people from two different families, and that's the only difference. But the rest is Mohawk style. And so what they're doing, when my son and daughter got married, they're allowing me to be proud of my son. And she's allowing her family to be proud of their daughter. Because the two will sit there before the nation and they will pledge and promise that they will respect and love each other. Come hell or blue water, they're going to go through. And whatever kids they got, they're going to follow them and they're going to protect them. And it's a time when you show the world the commitment of love. And that's the highest honor you can give to your father and your mother. That's what my grandma said. So when my grandma and I got married, my grandmother, she hugged us. She kissed us. She says, thank you. Thank you that you honor us. She says, I don't know, but it didn't marry anymore. Everybody is shacking up. Well, she said that, and so on. But anyways, now when you get married and you have babies, oh, here's what they say in the marriage school. When you're married and you got little kids, the neighbor kids is going to come over to play with their kids. And so they ask the man and woman. And in our way, all kids are your kids. Not just your biological. All kids are your kids. And so, in this marriage, if your kids plays with the neighbor kids and they're at your house, and it's now time to eat, you call your kids in, and you also call everybody that they're playing with in from the neighborhood. And when they come there, if their face is dirty, you wash it with them. If they got burdocks in the neighbor's hand, you take it off. And you put a chair and you feed them all. You don't send them home. Are you willing to do that? To love all kids. So you don't just marry your own wife, but you marry the whole kids of the nation. It's so different. It's so inclusive. That's what she was talking about a while ago. It's reinforced every which way you look. And anyway, so when they get kids, we believe that the man and the woman are both pregnant. That was Seneca Mohawk, all of them. I think the Ojibwe is the same way too, in the older days. That when a woman is pregnant, the man is also pregnant. And so for 9 months, that woman and that man isn't supposed to hunt deer or even fish or butcher a cow or a pig. Because if you do that, that little baby that's in there, if you see blood, it'll go transmit it to that little baby that's just conceived. And that's where they learn from the father's eye and the ears of the father and mother. And even the moods and the happiness and the sadness or the tears that the mother and father feels for the 9 months that they're in there is all transmitted to them. So for a whole 9 months, that baby is grown through the mother's eyes and ears and feelings. So if they fight or they're angry with each other, that also is transmitted. Anger can give the baby before it's born. So that's why when you're pregnant, you're not allowed to argue. If you have a dispute, you've got to wait till you cool off and then you talk to your wife in a gentle way, so no hard feelings. See? But sometimes the wife is the mean one. That's why she can't control it. Sometimes she gets real angry for hardly no reason, but there is a reason. It's the baby touching those and causing. So that's why my grandmother told me when I got married, she says for 9 months, that means for 9 months you must become like a pillow for your wife. So if she verbally attacks you with her words or her fist, I saw a pillow, they don't hurt nothing. But if you can't stand it anymore, just go out and take a walk for a half hour or something, and it'll go past, and you're all right again. But don't argue back to her. If you argue back, if a woman and a man argue for a pregnancy, it says this the right thing as well. That baby hears everything, even though she's a kid there, and that baby will say, oh, my father and mother's mad at each other, and they're hollering at each other, they're arguing. It's all my fault. Ever since I journeyed to come here to the earth through them, I have caused them to become upset. I'm the reason they're mad and arguing. So I didn't want to come here to the earth to the cause of trouble. So I'm going to abort myself. That way my father and mother will have no reason to be mad anymore. And then they will have be more dead. And that's part of the reason why I'm supposed to do that. And that's serious amongst the British people. And music